a long way since September 10th of 2001 with our intelligence capabilities, but intelligence is going to be the success of fighting these people on the ground here, and it has to continue and get better every day.
Former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik on this program Friday night. You heard Bernie say our intelligence capabilities need to improve to take on daily threats of terrorism. Many of our counterterrorism intelligence falls under the Patriot Act, an act that was under fire when it was revealed that the National Security Agency was collecting metadata on the phone records of U.S. citizens. The Patriot Act now has a renewal deadline of June 1st, and House Homeland Security Chairman Michael McCaul says the act will be renewed with stricter provisions on protecting the privacy of our citizens. Let's talk about all this now with our good friend from Newsmax LA, our contributor Larry Elder. And Larry, before we get to the notion of counterintelligence and the Patriot Act, got to get your thoughts on that report from Seymour Hersh claiming our president misled us on what went on in terms of the raid on bin Laden's compound.
JD, I don't know what to think. I've always said that there are three things I look for in a president. One is vision, one is competence, the other one is character. And of the three, character is the most important. So if President Obama, for example, were to say that this report is bunk, if the president had credibility, we would believe him. But unfortunately, he's made so many statements that have turned out not to be true. It's hard to dismiss what Seymour Hersh has said out of hand. On the other hand, it seems to me it would take a whole bunch of people to lie to keep this story that Obama has put out alive. So I don't know what to think. I know that Hersh is not a nutcase. He won a Pulitzer. He used to work for the New York Times, so he's not somebody that can be dismissed out of hand. I don't know what to say. I want to hear what other military experts have said in response to the report, so it's still real early.
It's obviously something we will keep an eye on and be listening for the comments of others, but we thank you for your initial reaction tonight. Now, thinking about the presidency, politics and policy mixed up in this thing, Rand Paul says he is going to lead the charge against the Patriot Act to ensure that even further amendments are made to these provisions. Will this help Senator Paul in his presidential run?
I don't think so. The majority of Americans are supportive of the Patriot Act. The majority of Americans aren't even bothered by this meta mining. What they are bothered by is whether or not the program is effective. And I still haven't had a good answer for that. When I've asked people, has the NSA meta phone mining program foiled any plots? I hear that a plot was foiled from an American who was involved in the Mumbai project. But there was a PBS special on Frontline the other day. Don't know if you saw it, but they said that his capture had nothing whatever to do with the NSA program. So I'm not sure it's effective. But I think Rand Paul is running against the wind because most Americans are concerned, especially when something like Texas happens, that we need to have better intelligence, especially for homegrown terrorists.
And conversely, in the Senate, we've heard from Marco Rubio, also a presidential candidate, that we better go slow with any changes. So obviously, he's taking a different tack. Some more things to talk about in the upcoming presidential race. Mike Huckabee appeared on Face the Nation from CBS News this weekend, defending his comments on Social Security. And some say his Social Security comments sounded like a Democrat. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Well, I think I sounded more like an American. I sounded like an American who understands that people have been paying in my case, since I was 14 years old when I got my first job. People pay into a system for 50 years.
Well, I hear that, Larry, and as a guy who served in Congress, we used to say, look, we're not out to destroy Social Security, we're out to preserve it, and use much the same language that Huckabee did. Well, your take on Huckabee, is that smart politics?
It's probably smart politics because old people vote. And no matter what you say, if you are an older person and somebody is going to, quote, mess around with Social Security, you feel insecure. But it's not good policy. The better policy is to move towards a system like they have in Chile, where individuals can put their money in an account that they can control. They get a far better return. And most of the people in Chile, this has been doing it now for 30 years, are satisfied. They're getting far better return than they got before. That's what I would hope some of the Republican candidates would be talking about. So I'm very disappointed that Huckabee pretty much wants to preserve the system as it is.
Well, what is interesting, Huckabee getting a lot of static and a lot of it from the establishment Republicans. For example, over the weekend, George Will wrote a column really taking Huck to task. He wrote in part, for Republicans worried about broadening their party's appeal, there is one word for Huckabee's stances: appalling. Now, it seemed to be more on the social issues, but what about it? Is the establishment after Huckabee?
Well, again, the system is unsustainable. When Social Security was first conceived, there were about 30 or 35 workers for every one retiree. Pretty soon, it'll be 2.5 for every one retiree. It cannot continue like this. We can increase the amount of money that people spend, or we can give them a better return on their investment like they've done, as I mentioned, in Chile and in New Zealand and in England, for crying out loud. We can do it here if they can do it there.
Well, of course, George W. Bush, we worked when I was in Congress trying to make some changes to Social Security, but a lot of people were really upset with that. Let's move from George.
Well, he got his head handed to him, remember? And Nancy Pelosi even laughed about it. She said he gave us a political gift, which is why I believe that Huckabee politically is saying the right kinds of things, because changes to Social Security scare people. But
well, let me just go to one other note. Talking about scaring people, 30 seconds. Jeb Bush told Fox News over the weekend he would have invaded Iraq like his brother did back in 2003. Does this hurt Jeb in his race? 30 seconds.
It does not hurt Jeb in this race, because Hillary Clinton supported it, as did John Kerry, as did Joe Biden, as did virtually every major Democratic leader during that period of time. So as far as I'm concerned, all he is doing is recounting accurately history.
Although a couple of weeks ago he was very public in saying he respected and loved his brother and dad, but he would be his own man. You know the critics are going to come after him. Larry Elder, we very much appreciate your insights and analysis. You heard what Larry had to say. What do you have to say? We would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments via email, also on Facebook and Twitter. And we're coming right back.